business is business, and most people don't have this one key element of their business that allows them to thrive. And Anthony Neeson has spent years building out this way of doing business that has allowed him to really be successful. And if you want to know how Anthony and his team grow and operate and scale and really impact his community, check out this conversation. You know, me and Lauren like to think of ourselves as problem solvers. And that's the part of the business that I really enjoy, which can be stressful because you're always dealing with somewhat of a chaotic situation, emotions when it comes to real estate. But, you know, solving problems in real estate is just a reality.
It's how you add value.
It's just a reality of the situation. And property management is probably no different. And so when it comes to solving problems and dealing with situations as a property manager, how do you deal with that? And like, what's one example of a difficult situation you had to deal with?
I think you have to, and it sounds cliche, but I think you have to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to back up because we all, especially when stress happens, everything kind of narrows in and we get really zoned in on what's right in front of us. And we have to back up and ask questions and think about it differently. So let's talk about we closed just under $2 million in June in sales.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one of them was very easy. It was the only buyer I had, so that one was rock and roll, and it didn't appraise by $1,000. Or okay, like we're not gonna solve it. Like this isn't a big thing. We're gonna figure this out. Yeah. But the two listings I had, because I thought differently around them, and I trusted my expertise, I was able to get collectively. I got my two sellers $100,000 more in their pockets.
Nice.
So I had one. I got a pre-listing appraisal. Nice lady. She wanted to have an idea of what it was worth. Got that back. Looked at it and said, "I don't think it's right. I think there's some missing information." So when I went to list it, I got it set. I had it appraised. It was $310. I said, I think it's worth more than that. So I had my team ready to go. Got approval from the seller for $319. And had a pause and said, I need 5 more minutes. And I went in my office and I looked at the data again. I thought about it. I said, I want to try it at $329, knowing that I don't overprice things. But I was like, I don't want to leave money on the table, and there's something telling me that this is right. Got it on the market at $329, had 4 offers immediately.
Wow.
And as we were looking at it, we knew it needed a roof. So I started doing all my due diligence and my pricing, and I said, hey, Miss Seller, I need y'all to trust me on something. And she said, what? I said, I want to accept this offer, but I want to take less than what they offered. And she said, I don't understand. I said, I know, stick with me. The agent didn't understand it either, but I knew the roof was going to be pricey. So I went back to the agent and said, look, I know we have it at $329. I'd really like to take $319 and your person be responsible for the roof. And she was like, done. But my people would be ecstatic about that. No problem. So when it all boils down to it, when it closed, it appraised at $319.
Nice.
My people didn't have to pay for a roof. That roof's about $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So they got an extra $20,000. And if we had priced it lower, she would have missed out on the $9,000 for the appraisal. And if I had priced it at the $319, she would have take the $20,000 off the roof.
Yeah.
So she made it about another $20,000 to $29,000, depending on how you slice those numbers.
Yeah.
On that one, because I thought differently, and I proposed something of, I know you have an offer for higher, but you're gonna make more money this way than if we just take the higher number.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would have just stopped at, well, this is more because it's a higher offer.
Or taking the appraised value and ran with that.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many. I mean, that resonates with me so much. I mean, that might be part of your role in the organization is to do that, listing appointments, pricing houses. But you know, the way we've built our system is that files come in, they go out, and if they follow our process and they meet all of our metrics, there's no real red flags or reasons for me to jump in. But the ones that stick out are the ones that don't meet the metrics, or there's something that's different about it that causes somebody to raise their hand, and that's whenever you step in and solve the problem. Like that file, looking at that, giving you the space to be able to make that decision and look at it. If you were doing all the other tasks, I guess what I'm trying to get to, you wouldn't have had the ability to focus on that listing appointment and taking the time to do your research and go by your gut and your expertise and solve that problem.
Yeah, you'd run out of energy.
For sure.
Right? Your battery's low. You don't have the ability to dive in and use your resources to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as leaders, though, particularly problem-solving leaders that are a resource to their people, it's just opening up that roadblock. you know, like you said before, you got to step outside the box, because if you have a process for it, but something breaks, then everybody quits. It's like, okay, we can't use the process anymore. No, take a step back and let's just open that door to, it's never no. The answer's never no, or that we have a problem. It's just, how are we going to solve it?
Right.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing for me. It's like, might not like the solution I'm going to provide for you sometimes whenever there's a situation.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to tell you no. I'm going to give you the solution, and we can go head first into that if you want. But you got to know it might take time, money, or energy. That we're gonna come up with a solution, and you have to make the decision as a client whether you want to put in the time, money, or energy to get there.
Yeah, and I think as the leader, right? If we talk about this from a leadership standpoint, I had a great leader in my past, and what I loved about her was she'd listen, she'd take it in, and she wouldn't do the hard no. She'd let you have your case, and she'd always ask, "Is this the hill you want to die on?" And if you said no, then she's like, "Well, great, we're done," and there was no further conversation. But if it was a yes, yeah, I'm willing to die on this hill. Well, then she would dive in and say, "Okay, let's talk it through." But once she got all her information, she processed it as the head honcho. If it was a yes, it was 100% yes. If it was a no, it was 100% no. There was no wishy-washy in between.
Yeah.
Right.
But you felt heard throughout the process.
For sure.
And she always said, "Look, I get one because I said so." Right? It's a no. Well, why? Because I said so.
Yeah.
Because I'm in charge and I have information that you don't know. Fair.
Sure.
So I've always taken that to say, look, if Jared works for me, and I'm going to listen, but every once in a while I'm going to play the big stick, and I'm going to play it once of just because I said so, and you just have to go
trust
with it.
me. Yeah.
You're going to have to trust that answer.
Yeah.
And if you've built that relationship, then it's well, that sucks, but I get it.
Yeah. I mean, how far?
If you don't abuse it, right?
Right, 100%.
Otherwise, you run into that situation like children, which if you're not explaining them how to make decisions, what risks they need to assess, they're never going to make decisions on behalf of the company. Instead, they're going to do what kids do. They go out of the house, they try it their own way until their hand gets bit, and
Right.
then they realize you're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
But like, I know this is kind of off topic for hard deals, but like, let's just tell me how impactful is it to have good leaders in your life? I mean, like over your career as a kid. I mean, I can tell you that none of the people who come into my head when I was growing up, they weren't perfect men and women, but they all had some sort of consistency and moral compass and way of holding you accountable that made you who you are today, right? Like, I mean, every single person of every phase of my life up until when I started Arena Collective, every single one of the men and women in my life have made an impact for the positive, and I can't be more thankful for that. But you know, you've mentioned like 3 people in your life that were like leaders to you that helped you become the leader you are, whether that was through Keller Williams or prior careers. Like, how important is that?
Well, I think you both have used the word that I think is the most important there. It's impact. Mm-hmm. We have a very finite time on this planet. So being able to have an impact on another person, you brought up the word legacy earlier. That's our legacy. Right? Most people aren't remembered 2 generations later. Mm-hmm. Like, people are going to remember Sam Walton for Walmart. Right? People are going to remember Gary Keller. He built a conglomerate, right? They're going to remember those names. But for most of us, even our own family won't remember our names 2 generations later. So every day, how do you wake up and have an impact on somebody to make them better? That's how we echo through eternity. Mm-hmm. Is if, can you make it better for that person today? Back from my soccer coaching days, there was a head coach for the University of Notre Dame, and he talks about, he has a big pyramid that is laid out of how you create a culture. And he talks about how do you leave a gaping hole in the world that when you're gone, it can't be filled. And if you think about doing that every day, you're going to wake up making sure that you have an impact on somebody and in a positive way. So we can be that person that somebody refers to later that we're not even going to know about. They're not going to call you up and be like, "Hey, Jared, remember that time that you had?" No, it's just gonna happen. Yeah. That's how you have the impact on the person, and you get to be somebody who's in a story of, I had this leader in my life that helped me become who I am today.
Yeah.
And that's how we named Arena. Honestly, I mean, it was somebody that impacted Rebecca, our partner's life, so much that she told us the story and how he presented her with the Man in the Arena quote, and that's how we became Arena Collective and put legacy as one of our values. So thank you for rounding that out so perfectly.
That was great. Well, this was a great conversation. I feel like we could talk for another hour about this kind of stuff because it was fun. But thanks for coming on, buddy.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yes.